Here again with another video. Uh, Comments, opinions about some events, current events that's going on right now. And that current event is, the I guess financial politician, whatever, politics, whatever. The Trump administration floated something out that may happen, may not. Probably it doesn't happen. I don't know, but it may happen, it may not. And that propose they proposed that they're gonna sorry about that they're gonna uh they're gonna try to ban single family home ownership, for investment purposes, and they're gonna say that it's corporate landlords and this and that, but most of the people that own property are like small business, LLC, uh just small people, small mom and pop stuff, mom and pop businesses that own a couple properties, maybe 2 or 3 properties, and they're using them as investments, and it is what it is. And it's kind of interesting because I was looking at YouTube and all these creators, that are kind of, they had been talking about real estate and how they're real estate investors, and they were preaching that, you know, buy a house and this and that. And obviously, in that post, it says that the house, buying a house, single family home is the American dream. And I think it's BS, It used to be the American dream, but it's not anymore, I consider the American dream is freedom, being free. And me being a homeowner, I know what it is, what consists of on real estate. And you're not free. It's a pain in the ass, man. It is what it is. It takes work, man, and works. Funny thing, I told somebody, it's like, man, dude, I'm just having trouble with my house and this and that. I was like, oh, that's life. I'm like, what? Nah, I don't want to live that life then. Something breaks on your home, man. I'm blessed enough to have gotten a newer built home, but if you have an older home and something breaks, man, those electricians, man, ain't cheap. Those plumbers ain't cheap. HVAC guys ain't cheap. To put simple rain gutters is not cheap either, man. Something that I've been through, and like, man, I was like, damn, okay. And that's, to be fair, that's another reason why home is unaffordable nowadays, and this all goes back to a video I posted a while back, saying that just real estate is just terrible. It's just a bad investment, man. It's an investment, but it's a bad investment unless you have a family and you're gonna plan on living on that house in that house for years, decades, at least, at least 15 years. If you're not planning on doing that, then don't even waste your time, bro. Like, your taxes, the interest, the closing costs, all that stuff is gonna just eat away at you. You could just put that money in and invest QQQQ, man, on Robinhood, man. Be good, man. Growing 20% a year, you don't do jack squat, man. Me personally, that's what I would do. Me personally, what I would do is I would rather better invest it in Bitcoin, but that's me, I'm not going to recommend that advice. Obviously Bitcoin is the most volatile, if not the most volatile asset, legit asset in the world. Obviously there's other crypto altcoins that are more volatile, but those aren't legit. The only ones that are legit is Bitcoin, maybe Ethereum, but aside that to be fair, another thing that why homes are unaffordable is because wages have not keep up in its true form, meaning that, yeah, you can make 6 figures, but 6 figures isn't the same as 6 figures, 15 years ago, or 80K isn't the same either. Any wage is not the same. Everything, because of the cost of living, it just went up so much in the past, 5 years. Both Democrats and Republicans, both, and not just the Democrats, it's both of them, politicians. One thing I know about politicians, man, is that they're gonna lie their way to to make rules to benefit them or the donors, whoever's donating, you know. And a lot of people don't know, but the what's it called, the National Realtors Association, they're one of the biggest donors, to politicians, man. A lot of people don't know that, you know. And if you don't believe me, just look it up. You could just Google it, you know. But aside from that, you know, that's one of the reasons why homes are unaffordable is because people are using them as investments. You know, a lot of people are using them as an investment, and I mean, it was a good investment, you know, but it's not anymore, you know. And and if they do, let's just say they did do that, you know, pass that bill, you know, I don't think it'll pass, but whatever, you know, it may not, you know. At least they're trying to do something. They're trying to win the midterms, but whatever, that's something else. And if it does pass, that's not gonna drop the price. I mean, they're saying that it's gonna raise prices. Like, yeah, it'll raise prices for a little bit, but when you keep flooding the supply, like, prices are gonna have to come down if you want to sell. If you want to sell, prices are gonna have to come down. You know, and because there's plenty of supply, you know, there's plenty. Obviously, there's a lot of regulations when it comes to building homes, whatever. But there's supply out there. It's just not affordable. People don't make enough money to cover that, you know. And I explained that in one of my videos, that make sure that you're making a good amount of money before you decide to buy a home, man, because it's a pain. It sucks, man. I lived through it, you know, and I've been house poor, and that shit sucks, man. It is what it is, you know. Made it out, hopefully, you know. Hopefully they lower interest rates. I don't think they're gonna lower interest rates. If they don't lower interest rates, well, guess what, you know, they're not, you know, they're not gonna come down, you know. People are still not gonna be able to afford you. You're gonna have to wait a couple years till wages catch up, you know. And the government, you know, obviously, you know, this administration, they're kind of trying to incentivize, you know, investment from to get other countries to reinvest their money into this country, you know. And that's a good thing, you know, because we do need it, you know. People have been decimated by, you know, inflation, you know. And this funny thing, you know, people say that, for an example, they use GDP as a measure of how much money you're making or whatever, you know what I mean? But I think that's a terrible measure, because it's not, they don't measure everything. You know, a better measure is a purchasing power. So you make 100K in the US, you make 30K in China, but you could buy more stuff in China with that 30K than with that 100K that we got over here, you know. That's a better, you know, metric of I guess, you know, success or productivity, you know, purchasing power. But obviously they're not going to use that, because they're still saying that 30K is poverty, when it's more like 80K at least. And that's being generous too. It should be like 120 something. That one in the six figures, that's poverty, you know, just to account for inflation, you know. But whatever, you know what I mean. And the cost of living, obviously, you know, there's things that come into play, like you need a car, you know, or it depends on your geographic location. You know, me being in the Fort Worth Metroplex, you need a car. You need a car to get to work. Good luck. You need a car. And you need to have a couple cars too, because it's a real congested area, and you may get totaled. Or you may total or get your car totaled, man. It is what it is. You better have one in reserve. So is that a luxury, or, you know what I mean? Like, is that a luxury? No, it's not a luxury. It's a necessity, man. You need these things. Or if you don't have a smartphone, but you're in a disadvantage if you don't have a smartphone. You know, there's so many things on smartphones that you can do, aside from entertainment, you know, which is what most people use it for, obviously. But there's other things that you need from your smartphone, man. And it's kind of crazy, you know, to think about things that you actually can use your smartphone for, you know. And like, I would say that you could get like a minor in whatever field, in a minor in whatever field, you know, whatever whatever college degree, you know, you could get it in on YouTube. You know, obviously you won't get the certificate, but it's partly, you know, college is like super expensive, like crazy. You know, you could get that for free. You know, a lot of stuff, you know, a lot of information on YouTube for free. You know, crazy. You know, that's very valuable. You know, and that's just one of them. You know, Google Maps, obviously. You know, your banking, all that stuff. You know, you basically have all your money on your phone and their internet. You know, everybody has that. You know. But yeah, just, you know, little opinion about that. You know, it's funny how the people that own a real estate investors say that it's gonna cause the housing market to go up, and I think it's bullshit. I think it's gonna go down. It may not go down quick, but it'll obviously, some real estate is just slowly goes up and then slowly goes down, but it'll cause it to go down. And where's your appreciation? You know, whatever, you know, if you buy a house, make sure you buy it because you want to live in it. You know, don't use it as an investment tool. You know, it was an investment, but we have way better investments, man. Like I mentioned, you know, the stock market, Bitcoin, gold, man, gold futures, man. There's just way more better investments, man, than a property, man. Yeah, man. And just, you know, a quick video about that. You know, I don't want to be like too negative, talking too much about nonsense stuff, you know. But yeah, man, if you get any advice, any value from this video, just, you know, give it a thumbs up. You know, I don't get paid for none of this. I don't even care about the money. I feel like the only thing that I'm doing here is just giving out my experience to people, you know, or someone might see this and get value from it. That's, you know, if I know that I helped somebody, you know, a lot of stuff that I've, you know, say online, you know, it's stuff that I've lived and went through, because a lot of these people that have all these production, and you just got to be careful what you're listening to, man. Like it's the mainstream now. It's like CNN. It's like, you know, they have their interests, and I'm not opposed to people like making money online, you know, whatever, you know, but you just got to be careful and be able to disseminate the information, you know, of where it comes from, you know. And yeah, man, just stay on point, man. Real estate is a bad investment, man. It's a bad investment. It was a good investment, you know. Just hope y'all take this advice, you know what I mean? If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, you know what I mean? I won't be, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, man. I'll admit I'm wrong, you know. It is what it is, though. I'll let y'all go, keep this one short. Have a good day.